Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Okay. Sorry for the... Sorry. So, sorry for the delay. 10 minutes of my time, but I'll just speed up in the flow of things. So this is Invoke EmpireDog, merging BloodHound and Empire. Merging BloodHound and Empire for enhanced red team workflow. Hello, hello. My name is Sad Processor, born in France, living in Holland, working in Germany. I'm a security consultant for ERNW, a small family-sized company that does very big stuff. Okay. My part in this, I do mostly PowerShell automation, and I try to build tools or a little tooling to assist customers. And other stuff I like, so electronic music, Photoshop, and there's a few in my deck. Lego Tetris, that's for the kid in me, the geek. World Food, first time DerbyCon speaker, so I'm very much stressed to be standing here right now. And so sorry you're stressed, but it's not picking up very well. Okay. I'll lean in. And yeah, Forever Noob also with the microphone, with everything. Like I said, I'm French. You will see that not every French person presents in an underwear. So, it's just for you. I didn't have any Kiwi ones. Just a quick word. I know this is DerbyCon, but we're all into security, one big family. So I'm just quickly reminding that Troopers is the CFP, CFT is open, and we're this year having a double Active Directory track. So if you have anything to submit, send it in, come to Germany, and yeah, better like this. Okay. So last year was a fantastic keynote by Matt Graeber, where he told us to follow our shiny objects. So this year I decided to come and show you mine. So these are my tools, and I'll be presenting them today. So on the agenda, so tools and demo, it's going to be only tools and demo. First tool I'll be presenting is EmpireStrike, which is a set of commandlets to work with Empire. Then I'll be presenting CypherDog, a set of PowerShell commandlets to be working with BloodHound, and finally EmpireDog, which kind of automates on top of both of these modules. Why do I choose PowerShell? Simply because it's cross-platform, work with objects, you can use the pipeline, I just love it. So there's going to be a lot of PowerShell in here. My hope is, like, I know people are moving away from the PowerShell tradecraft on the system that is being attacked. I still believe PowerShell to build your own toolings on the side of the attacker is a fantastic framework. So this is my my language of choice when I build tools. So let's get started. Empire and EmpireStrike. So what is Empire? Empire is a PowerShell and Python post-exploitation framework. And just to put it in a context, I guess you guys are all red teamers or security people, but just what is post-exploitation? Basically anything that happens after the exploit. And here you will see situational awareness, lateral movement, privilege escalation, persistence, data collection, and exfiltration. So I mentioned these because all the modules that you will find in Empire are also sorted by these categories. So this is a handy way to find your modules. Features from Empire, so PowerShell without PowerShell, in-memory execution, multiple communication profiles, secure communication, cryptography, and everything. More than 280 modules, mostly built by the community. And I'll just mention one that has been fully incorporated inside is the obfuscation by Daniel Bohannon. And one that I would like actually is to map all the modules to the ATT and CK framework so that you could like work with all this at the same time. Credits, so always give credits to the real creators. I just build my tool on top. But yeah, Harmjoy has been a big inspiration for me, and behind here the shell father, or Jeffrey Snover, is also yeah, the guy who laid the foundation for PowerShell. That's what it looks like, and I'm not going to go too much into Empire itself. And I'll present now EmpireStrike. So EmpireStrike is a set of commandlets to interact with one or more Empire server via REST API. So one or more makes it actually quite flexible, and also you could be more users working on the same server at the same time. So it becomes a team server, basically. These are the commandlets you will find in this module. So all of them start with invoke Empire as a lazy way to use the verb in PowerShell. But you can remove all this and just use these commands as a alias. So it's very quick at the command line. Features, so we'll have full control via REST API, multiple session, easy syntax and aliases, tab completion, IntelliSense, and of course pipeline input, object output, and extensive help pages once I get to fully write them, basically. They're not fully there yet. Yeah, this is something also, I submitted this talk and I thought I would have more time to develop everything. I've had a busy summer, so I'm still struggling to follow Captain Jesus and Harmjoy's development, but I'm catching up. So let's start with sorry, with the demo. I'll show you some code first, so you know what's happening. Let's go to this one. Oops. So here, can you all read the code? Yeah. I'm just defining some variables, and then we're gonna start the action. So I make in the demo, the computer will talk just to make it a bit more interactive. And here you start to see the EmpireStrike commands in there, just to show how easy it would be for you to write your own automations with all this. So what we're gonna do basically is connect to the server, create the listener, copy a stager to the clipboard, then I'm going to infect the target machine with this listener as a way to simulate phishing or any other type of foothold. Once this is done, we're going to wait for the agent. When an agent comes in, we're going to start a loop where the automation will check if this agent is elevated, and if not, we'll auto-elevate the agent and install persistence and ransomware on the target machine. So the code is not that complex. If you were to read it, you see. So we say something. We use a module here. We set an option for the listener. We set the option here. We launch the strike, and we wait for the action. So basically, these little 5 lines of code are all you need to automate it. And if you have, like, once you saw the demo, maybe you can go back to the code and you will understand a bit more what it does. So I'm going to comment. So this is my target machine. This is my Empire server, and you see for now no agent, no listener. I'm just loading the module. And then I'm going to run it as a script. Of course, if you were at the command line, you could do it. So I'm logging in the server. And you see on both screens. So we're waiting for the initial agent. I'm going to simulate this on the target machine by simply pasting my stager. And you're going to see immediately on the server on the side that the first agent comes in. This was a little warning. Okay, so she was explaining that, yeah, here it doesn't find the privilege account, so attempting to elevate the agent. You see another agent calling in on the server. And you saw the screen flickering on the target. I don't dare to touch anything because. So the persistence has been set up. Now we're setting up ransomware, which is just a wallpaper to simulate the effect, but could be any other type. And they are quite handsome, eh? So now I'm simulating a reboot just to show that persistence was installed on the target system. And you should see a new agent coming in on the server side as we rebooted the machine. Right there. So here from a server that had nothing, that no listener, no agent, we've in one hit of F5, we've set up the listener, get a stager, infect the target, elevate the initial agent, install persistence, and ransomware without the hands. So it's all automatable. And this is again just an example of what you can do with it, but all the modules are accessible, all the options are settable. So it's a nice way, I think, to control the Empire server from outside. Next step for me on this is to upgrade it to Empire 3.0, which is already in planning, I believe, from Zoyor and all these guys. Make it PS Core compatible so that you can also use it on your Linux or any box you're working on, basically. Write more commandlet and eventually at some point write an automation playbook so you will already have recipes for basic repetitive action you do on the server. Do we have any questions so far on the server, on the EmpireStrike side? So the code will be up during the weekend. I'm still updating a few stuff last minute. I think like we all do when we come to conference, we like to add features and break everything, but the code is on the way. Now, BloodHound and CypherDog. So Empire is a real offensive framework for offensive operation. BloodHound is just here for situational awareness. So once you have your foothold, you can run the ingester, collect all the data from your Active Directory, bring it back into the server, and use this as a base for your operations, basically. The background for BloodHound, so it came from, I think, well, this quote from John Lambert, Microsoft Threat Intel summarizes the philosophy behind it. So defenders think in list, attackers think in graph, and as long as this is true, attackers win, something like this. I think this was a foundational blog post that kind of like paved the way to BloodHound, and yeah, maybe a few beers, and they decided to go for it. So what is it? It's a relationship graphing tool for Active Directory objects. Now, once you said that, you don't understand it much more, but what does it look like? So here you have a screenshot, and let me make it bigger. You see all your objects, so groups, users, computers, but also GPOs and OUs and their relationship, and all this creates an attack path for the red team. Credits. So again, Harmjoy, but this time he teamed up with Waldo and Captain Jesus. The bottom one is attackers think in autographs. It's a funny one. Now, what is CypherDog? So CypherDog is again a set of PowerShell cmdlets, this time to interact with BloodHound, and we're going to be sending Cypher queries to the REST API, so Cypher being the Neo4j language that we use under the PowerShell cmdlets. These are the cmdlets you have available in this module. So I this time used real verbs because I got a remark from Jeffrey Snover that I wasn't following the best practices. So they're all changed, and it does make more sense. You know what you get, you know what you set. So it's a bit more, it says a bit more than just invoke, basically. Features for this tool, so full control via REST API, database manipulation cmdlets, and this is something that Waldo touched a bit upon, but making hypotheses on your graph, changing a bit the relationship, seeing if you get less path. So this is possible with these cmdlets. And again, easy syntax, tab completion, pipeline, objects, and help pages. Demo. So this time I'll do it live. I have I have here my BloodHound, so I have a sample database inside that is completely corrupted, so it looks very strange, but it was for me to be able to work on this, so I hope this this will work for you guys. So if you simply say BloodHound, you will have all your commands and a little bit of explanation. Then you can start looking at users, for example, and he will spit out all the users. If you like it more in a table format, PowerShell lets you do this. And we're here dealing with objects, of course, so you could start manipulating this object, dot referencing the properties and everything. So that's your list of users. You can, of course, get a single user if you like. And all the other types of node in the exact same way. So all your computers, your groups, your GPOs, your OUs, they're all here with their attributes, basically. Now, if you were to search for a node, you can you always have to specify what type you're searching for. So node search and then user computer group. I took out all the ticks, so you can just simply write it like plain English almost. And here, oops. So I'm returning a user that has server in the name. I can return a computer that has server in the name. More interestingly, you can get all the users and return, for example, has SPN equals true. So spin users. On the side of computers, you can filter by property also. So here for a computer with unconstrained delegation. So it's a way for you to quickly browse through your objects in the database and grab them by property in bulk, basically. Everything is pipeable, so once you get these objects, I can pipe them to another command to start something else. Edges represent the relationship in the database. So here I'm asking for users member of the group domain admin. I get the list of all the objects, but I could also simply measure them, see that I have 13 of them. And my favorite option in this module is the -cipher. So all the commands have a -cipher. If you do this, it shows you the cipher that it uses, that it's going to send to the API. At the same time, it puts it in your clipboard. So if you go back to BloodHound and you simply paste it in the query box, you will have the graph of what you're looking at. So here, of course, I'm asking for users, so there's no relationship, but you can use this -cipher switch on all your commands, and I'll show a bit more later. Here I was asking for all the users member of the group, and I specify the group. You can, of course, do the opposite, and you're asking actually a different question to the database. So here I'm asking for all the groups where this specific user, HW at domain local, is a member of. So the syntax is user HW member of group, and you get the groups he's member of. This is awesome. This has been added by Captain Jesus in the latest release of BloodHound. So all the edges, if you, I'll show you here. All right, let me get a path. Shortest path to here. So any edge, if you right click on it, has a help. Well, any, not the one I chose here. There's one missing. Did you see that? One doesn't open up. Okay. And here you start to get a bit of info on how you would start to attack this edge, or how you would start to move along this edge with the abuse info, the OPSEC consideration, and the reference. Everything, all of this, I have added also to the command line. So an operator could at the command line say, okay, I have here member of, how can I attack this? And you get the exact same info that you would get on the in the UI. Of course, you can query path, and here it's a very short path, but from this user to this group, I can query the same path and specify I don't want no ACL. And here you see that this is actually giving me a longer path. Very often the ACL paths shorten the attack path. So here by asking without ACL, I get them, oops. Let me format this as a table so you see it better. So this is what a path would look like at the command line. And the idea would be in a third module, in the EmpireDog module, to have a semi-automated way of following this attack path by asking you which module you would want to run for each edge, basically. That's not developed yet. I can ask for a path. I can show you this one actually in the UI if you want. Oops. So it's a bit of like moving back and forth, but as soon as you say Cypher, you can go back in the tab, paste it in, and you get the equivalent of what we saw in the command line. We have the equivalent here. Can I do this? Yes. So you see my path here. You can, of course, ask a path to here from this user to any group. And of course, he returns more path. If I ask for it in the command line, it will look way nicer. Shrink. So this is where the BloodHound graph can sometimes become a bit overwhelming, and this is why having it accessible in the command line to break it down sometimes makes it easier to read, basically. But this graph here is the equivalent of asking this query here. Sorry, oops. Which is actually just a path from the user to a group from HW domain to any, without ACL. Yep. And I can do the opposite, and you're going to see that it looks like the opposite in the graph. So this time all the paths that add up to that finish on the group that I was targeting. So from any to that group, or from that group to any. Queries have or path have a direction, so you need to respect that. Oops. Following the idea of, or the supposition that a member of has no cost when you're attacking a path. So I kind of wanted to calculate the cost of an attack path. Not only by counting the amount of hops you would have to make to get there, because for me a hop of member of has a cost of 0. So this commandlet here, path cheap, is a shortcut to not counting member of as 1 in the cost, and then he takes the cheapest. And what I do to get this is actually I ask for the cheapest path, and then I expand the maximum distance. And I ask him for the cheapest, even in a longer one, so as to be sure that you do get the cheapest path of all the possibilities. Sometimes a longer path could actually be cheaper because it has more member of in it. So you can, in this way, you can quickly see which one would be the easiest to follow. Another cool feature, cross-domain member, will give you all the members that are member of a group on one side and have access on the other side. So here I have two domains, and you see that domain from domain local to BSC local, account op domain has a member of account operators. So you can also extract metrics from the database. So here I'm asking for the top 5 admins in this network, and you see that my top admin is FK at domain, and I could also ask for the opposite, so see all the computers that are administered by this user. So it's a very quick way to navigate. Members of a group, I can ask them like this, not very interesting. This here, Waldo.io, is the Waldo index. Oops, let me do this. And what it does actually, for a given group, it will calculate the amount of inbound users, so how many users have a path to that group, and what percentage is this of the total amount of user of your Active Directory, and then outbound computers. So all these users can access that group, and from that group I can access all these computers. And you see here that actually 65% of my users can access 100% of the computers. I added here the amount of hop, the amount of computers touched on the way, and the cost of those paths. So this is a quick way. You can like pass it all your groups and pipe it to Waldo.io, so you would have a report of all the groups and their input-output in your whole Active Directory. Okay. Database manipulation. So I'm going to go very quickly over this, but here I can create a user and properties in one go. I'll create Bob and Alice. Then we can have a look at Bob and Alice, and they've just been created. We can search who has a property of color blue, for example. Did that work? Nobody. Red. Alice, yeah. Now I can update just the property and see that now Alice is in blue. Here, so another nice feature added in the framework is that if you take a user, for example, you can add notes to this user directly in the UI. Not if you're on a dark theme, you won't see it, but it still is here. But the dark theme does has white letters in it. So what you can do in that case is simply, for example, here, add a note to the user Alice, and simply by adding the node switch on your node user Alice query, you will get the notes back out of this user. The idea here is that you could eventually execute commands and pipe the output directly to the node nodes if you wanted to, for example, to keep track of your activity. So I created those two nodes. I'm going to create an edge between them. I'm going to use the owned edge. This is just to show you the cipher that is behind it. And now if we check which user owns user Bob, you will see that Alice comes out, basically. And you could also request, of course, a path from Alice to Bob. Alice owns Bob. So there's only one edge here. Another interesting one, so when you have a user or a group, you can, with a right click on it, you can mark as a high value, and you see the little diamond icon appears on this user. You can do the same thing from the command line, and you could here do it at scale by passing it a full list of user, for example. But I'm just going to mark Alice as a high value. And if I go back in my UI and I ask for Alice, you see that, oops. Not sure why I'm not getting the icon, but I'm getting the little diamond. I'm just not getting the user icon anymore. I don't know why. And then of course I'm going to delete those users. I don't want to pollute my database. And they're gone, so it tells me the Alice and Bob are not in the valid list of users. So that's the idea behind CypherDog. I think BloodHound is a fantastic platform for like gathering all your information during the engagement. And for me, having a command line tool to do this at scale allows for very quick, like if you have to mark 10 users as high value in the UI, there's an amount of clicks that can be skipped. So that's the idea behind all these commands. I'm really late, so I'm going to speed up. Sorry. CypherDog. So what's next? Keep up with Captain Jesus. The guy is a real coding machine. So yeah, I spend my weekends trying to understand what he do and adapt. Also make it PSCar compatible. I would like to make it multi-server so that you could have database in different places and query them from your command line without having to switch the database in the BloodHound UI. Where are we? Now, last bit. So EmpireDog, which is simply like mixing EmpireStrike and CypherDog together. A set of PowerShell Cmdlets for EmpireStrike and CypherDog automation. For now, I have only these, but I'm writing more at the moment. DogMap is a automated way to map your Empire infrastructure in BloodHound. DogBark is a way to return nodes. And DogBite is a way to set the target by specifying the BloodHound node. You set the target in Empire, basically. Featured, yeah, that's what I just said. So automap Empire assets, auto-select agent via node name, pipe agent output to BloodHound node, automate owned or high value at scale, and then later write more offensive recipes. Quick demo to finish. I'm not going to show you the source code because I don't have time, so I'm just going to do it like this. And this is where I'm going to map and manipulate the Empire. So here I have only one target in BloodHound, and I ask for Empire map, showing me all my Empire. I have nothing. Here I have one server, no agent, no listener. I'm going to create all this like last time. So simply log into it. Yeah. Show that there's no listener for now, no agent for now. Then I'm going to create a listener. I'm going to use HTTP, create with the default name HTTP, and you see my listener is started on the server. You can also see the little bits of code coming in on the server side. I'm creating an HTTP com just to have two listeners, and now if I list, you see all my listeners and their names. So again, it's just object. You could tap into any property. And I'm going to now DogMap. So DogMap will take all this data from my Empire server and come and import it into BloodHound. So now if I ask again for EmpireStrike, you see my infrastructure is starting to be laid out on the graph here. I can DogBark session, and it gives you the session you have in your BloodHound map. It gives you the listeners you have. I still have no agents. So I'm going to use a multi-launcher for the listener HTTP. I'm going to generate a stager to my clipboard. I'm going to go infect the target, I suppose. Yep. So this is the same setup than last time. Now you see the agent checked in. So if I do agent list, I have my agent available with all the properties. I can execute a command against this agent, and this is just to show that we return full objects. Even though Empire would return strings, you can trick it to return a JSON string and open it on the server side or on your side. Now I'm mapping it, and you should see my agent being added to the map and the target he's running on. That's my agent. Now I'm going to connect to a second server, and that's this one here. We're already a listener and an agent to gain some time. Once this is logged in, I'm going to map it into BloodHound again. So it's basically querying Empire, getting all the objects and pushing them into BloodHound. If I map again, you see that I now have my second server or session with another listener here. Now we're going back to session 1. I generate a stager for that listener I just created. I have it in my clipboard. I go back to session 0, which is the one you had an agent running on top, and I execute my stager against the agent that I have running on the target. Now you see here on the server, he receives my command, and on the other side, you will see a listener or an agent checking in. So I basically passed my listener from one agent to another via myself. And if I map this again, you will see now that there's a new agent that's been created on the HTTP1 session this time. So that's a simple demo of what you can do with it, but the idea would be that you can fully integrate them to one another, basically. What next? So more commandlets, automation playbook, and documentation if I get time. Where to get more info? So on the BloodHound Slack, Jesus answers quicker than Google, so just do it. The invite is on the bottom if you're not there yet. It's really a cool place with more than 2,000 people chatting about red team stuff, so it's a cool place. This is where you will find the code. Again, probably by the end of the weekend it will be uploaded or on there, so the 3 modules. And that was about it for today. And just, yeah.